Hello everyone, it's Jack from WhatCulture.com and welcome to another edition of Who. Now, the topic this week revolves around Kurt Angle, and I'm sure you know why, because at the end of Raw, Kurt was on the phone, he's been getting these weird texts for the past few weeks, and this time he got a call at the end of the show and went, look, don't worry, we're just gonna come clean, come with me next week and we'll sort it out. I love you. And the internet exploded. Now, originally everyone thought it could be a mystery lover, but there's various other possibilities it could be, so I wasn't sure what to title this video. You may notice that it's called Who is Kurt Angle's Dirty Little Secret, and I can reveal that the man who gave me that title was a certain Plumpy, because it's very him. If you read it in his voice, it's picture his big lips doing like a little, doesn't even bear thinking about. Other suggested titles were Who's Been Olympic Meddling and Cleary's Theories, which was suggested by Adam Cleary, but we've gone with Who is Kurt Angle's Dirty Little Secret, and rather than a ranking, I'm just going to run through some theories and you can decide for yourselves which one is the most likely. Don't forget to leave your opinions in the comments below. Let's waste no further time and let's find out who is behind, let's find out who is Kurt Angle's dirty little secret. So let's start off with the theory that everyone immediately leapt to when Raw went off the air on Twitter. I logged onto Twitter to be a detective and I found out that most people thought it's an illegitimate lover. That makes a lot of sense. He said, I love you. He didn't seem to say it in the sort of like casual bro-y way, like, love you, man. It was more like, I love you. So the first suspect that everyone leapt to was Stephanie McMahon. This makes a lot of sense on the surface. Kurt Angle infamously had that angle with Stephanie back in 2000 where he was putting all the moves on her. It was one of the first angles I remember as a kid first getting into wrestling, and it was, looking back, hilarious, really funny. Kurt Angle was saying, Steph, I'm just here for you as a friend, but he was being like the creepy nice guy. Triple H was obviously her husband and he was really annoyed. Apparently the angle was going to lead to Stephanie leaving Triple H for Kurt, but then rumour has it Triple H went, there's no way Stephanie would fall for a nerd like Kurt IRL, so let's just not have that. And then Triple H beat him instead. So that got nixed, but what could have been? So the groundwork very much seems to be there, especially if it leads to the rumoured WrestleMania 34 matchup between Kurt Angle and Triple H, like Kurt Angle's big last hurrah. But my counterpoint is to this, there is no one on WWE television right now as protected in terms of being a boss as Stephanie McMahon. She regularly emasculates the coolest superstars on her own roster, male or female, face or heel. She doesn't really care. She's always got the upper hand, apart from very rare situations like when Seth Rollins knocked Triple H into her and she went through a table, most recently at WrestleMania 33. So my question is, would WWE allow, remember a company ran by her father, would WWE allow Stephanie to be portrayed in such a way as an unfaithful wife to one of the biggest names in wrestling history, Triple H? I don't know if they would. And if they did, I'd be very shocked indeed. But at the same time, I genuinely can't think of anyone more immediately obvious. So I'm very fascinated, but my gut instinct says they wouldn't dare do that, would they? Next up, the second most popular name on everyone's list, as the sort of rumours were swirling around the internet, was Dixie Carter. I'm far less convinced by the Dixie Carter one. I don't think WWE would want anything to do with TNA or Impact Wrestling or anyone associated with that company over the years, especially someone as closely associated as Dixie Carter. I think if they brought her in, a lot of fans who are just purely WWE fans wouldn't even know who she is. They'd be like, I don't understand what is Panda Energy. So I just can't see that one. I'd be even more surprised if it was Dixie, and I'd be less excited about it too. I think the Stephanie angle is potentially a lot juicier, and Stephanie's a far better character on television. Dixie's never that great in front of camera. In the words of Richard behind the camera, she's shit on cam. Now it's time to go a bit left field, because Kurt Angle has been married twice and has several children by these women, and yet, could it be a secret gay lover? No. Kurt Angle could be gay in the storyline. As we all know, Hulk Hogan has a 10-inch penis, Terry Bollea does not. Real life Kurt Angle, heterosexual. Wrestling Kurt Angle, maybe he's a gay man. Who knows? So don't worry, because I've compiled a list of potential secret gay lovers for Kurt, and they are as follows. Number 1, Brock Lesnar. What's that? You don't think it'll be Brock Lesnar? I'll tell you why, Richard. Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle forged a respect for one another in the main event of WrestleMania 19. Do you not remember that? Yeah. And do you remember the look they gave each other on Raw this week? When Angle was like, you earn my respect, and Brock gave a little smirk. like lovers would, secret ones, in front of a televised audience. They can't say, oh my God, I love you, but they can't exchange a little play of the lips. And they've kissed, before as well. Yes, Google that. They've kissed before as well. And Brock Lesnar once cost Big Show in a title match with Kurt Angle, allowing Kurt to win the title. But that was more for Brock's own selfish reasons, getting revenge on Big Show and his manager at the time, Paul Heyman. So that's a bit of a weaker point. Another maybe counter argument to this is also the fact that Brock Lesnar was there at Raw and Kurt received a call from someone presumably not in the building. So maybe it's not Brock Lesnar, as amazing as that would be. That would be a wild one. Yeah, just you wait for who I've got next. Rikishi. Why Rikishi, Jack? I hear you ask. Yes, we know Rikishi is an undeniably sexy man, but why on earth would he be tied to Kurt Angle in such a way? Cast your minds back, my friends, to the year 2000, where Kurt Angle won his first ever WWF/E championship. Who interfered in that match? Tried to help The Rock, inadvertently blasted The Rock with a super kick and helped Kurt Angle secure victory. That's right, it was Mr. Fatu himself. Now, I pose this to you. Rikishi was not actually interfering on behalf of The Rock. He didn't do it for The Rock. He didn't do it for the people. He did it because he was secretly in love with Kurt Angle, and it's taken Angle 17 years to realize like the gratitude and the feelings that developed. For sure. But maybe it's not Rikishi, because as we all know, if we know our Attitude Era history, whenever Rikishi appears to be doing something for some reason, it's always for another. Was Rikishi the man behind the plot to run down Stone Cold? No, he wasn't. Yes, he may have driven the car, but there was a mastermind, and that mastermind is my next suspect. That's right, it's time to play the game. I'm suggesting that Kurt Angle's secret lover is Triple H. Why would Kurt Angle and Triple H... No. Why would Kurt Angle and Triple H be secret lovers? Maybe Triple H is just fucking sick of being married to someone like Stephanie McMahon, right? You can see that. You can totally understand that. And maybe this will lead to an awesome match at WrestleMania 34 where they keep there's lots of sexual aggression and they keep getting a bit too carried away, but then they have to break apart and wrestle properly. And then eventually Triple H does a whole remix of the I'm Sorry, I Love You between Michaels and Ric Flair, but with far more earnest, serious ramifications, and then hits him with a pedigree and then covers him for the 1, 2, 3 and then sort of just kisses him on the lips. And then Kurt Angle rides off into the sunset. Yeah? And my last suspect in terms of a gay lover for Kurt Angle is Lince Dorado, because I really like him and I wanted to get him in this video. But wouldn't it be weird? Wouldn't it be weird? Yeah. And apparently weird's good. Like when they made an underdog, jobber in Jinder Mahal win the WWE Championship, and everyone went, no lads, it's good. Give it a chance. How's that working out for you lads? Are you enjoying Jinder versus Randy? Maybe Lince should be Kurt Angle's secret lover, and we'll see. We'll just see how weird WWE can get before everyone goes, no, this is irrational. Because if all the rules are out the window, we might as well give Lince a push on the back of being Kurt Angle's lover. Right? Now on to a theory that has been tossed around the WhatCulture office by many, including Michael Sidgwick, author of Developmental Hell, which you can find at shop.whatculture.com. A brilliant book chronicling, I don't want to tell this an advert for Sidgwick, but he's a really good guy and he knows his wrestling, and he is one of the people who said, when Kurt Angle said I love you, he didn't say it to a spouse or a lover, he said it to a child, his own illegitimate child. Now Kurt Angle is not that old, and relative to a lot of the guys on the roster who could be his illegitimate child. So if we were looking at it like this, with some of the suspects I'm about to mention, we'd have to assume that he got someone pregnant when he was 15. It's not implausible. Okay, let's just keep that in mind. It's not implausible. My first suspect here is Corey Graves, because Corey, if you've been watching for the past few weeks, has been involved quite a lot with the Kurt Angle storyline. He's been the one kind of going, Kurt, it's all right, don't worry about it, man, and all this sort of stuff. And they're both from Pittsburgh. What further evidence could you possibly need? And also, they both have tattoos. Yes, Corey has lots, and Kurt has that one small one on the back of his back. What is that a tattoo of? Next up, Chad Gable, right? Chad Gable. They've both got very similar wrestling styles. Chad Gable and Jason Jordan have been called the heirs to Kurt Angle, but Gable in particular wrestles in that Olympic wrestling. Was he an Olympian as well? Yes, he was a wrestling Olympian. He's, kind of, but he's on SmackDown. So this one's a bit of a weird one. That's why it's weird. That's why it's unlikely, because they're on different brands. The biggest barrier of all. To be honest, this one's just because they both wear singlets and wrestle the same. But I'd enjoy it because it would give Gable a push, and he's really good. So this is one of the outcomes that I'd be most pleased with on this list, apart from Lindsay Dorado. And finally, one that was suggested to me just before I entered the studio today, Noam Dar, for the simple reason that Noam has been emphasising recently how young he is. When he broke up with Alicia Fox on this week's 205 Live, he said, "I am the youngest guy on this roster. I could have any woman, I deserve better," all the rest of it. But the key point that he's stressed in a few promos now is how young he is, which means that it wouldn't be too implausible for Kurt Angle to be his dad. What would make it implausible is that they look nothing alike, and he's from Scotland by way of Israel, and Kurt's from Pittsburgh. But at the same time, maybe he was adopted. Maybe he doesn't need to look like him. Maybe it's Noam Dar. And finally, let's end on a bit more of a realistic theory. One that revolves around the fact that these texts have been coming from Kurt's doctor and that Kurt may have to retire. Kurt, we all suspect, has one match left in him. Many think it's going to be against Triple H next year at WrestleMania. And this could very much be the spark that leads to that match. The text could be from his doctor. The person on the phone could be his actual wife. And he's just saying, "Don't worry, I love you. We'll come and make this announcement together that I'm going to retire." Presumably then Triple H will come out and hit him. And because of the rules of wrestling, overriding the rules of medical advice often, he'll magically be able to have one more match, and that'll lead to the retirement angle. That one's decent, you know. I'd have no complaints other than it could have been so much sillier and more interesting, but I wouldn't mind it if that turns out to be the culmination of the mystery next week on Raw. So I hope you've enjoyed this rather eclectic video. I've been Jack from WhatCulture.com, Richard Tubman behind the camera. Who do you think is behind the Kurt Angle mystery / dirty little secret? Who has to know? I've been Jack again from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.
Waste your pie holes, you dirty, sweaty marks. You think you're a smart mark, do you? A smart is it? Then answer me this simple wrestling question. Who was the only member of the NWO to never have worked for WCW? No, you're wrong again, because you're a sweaty mark. It was Shawn Michaels. Improve your knowledge and test your bastard self with the new WhatCulture Wrestling Trivia game, available now at shop.whatculture.com. Sweaty mark.